walk into a room 5 minutes late, every head turns, every eye locks onto you. Your brain screams, they all saw that. They're all judging you right now. Except they're not. Most of them didn't even register you came in. And the ones who did, they forgot about it before you reached your seat. Your brain just lied to you. And it does this constantly. There's a name for this lie. Psychologists call it the spotlight effect, the persistent illusion that you're standing under a bright light that everyone else can see. You feel observed, evaluated, and exposed all the time. But the truth is, almost nobody is paying attention. Everyone is too busy standing under their own imaginary spotlight. This might sound like a small quirk. It isn't. The spotlight effect quietly distorts how you behave at work, how you act at parties, what you post online, and whether you date to speak up at all. It is one of the most universal cognitive biases humans have, and understanding it might genuinely change the way you move through the world. In the year 2000, psychologist Thomas Gilovich and his colleagues at Cornell University designed a beautifully cruel experiment. They asked college students to put on a t-shirt, not just any t-shirt, but one with a massive picture of Barry Manilow on it. For context, this was considered deeply uncool by the average college student. Then, the embarrassed participant had to walk into a room full of other students and sit down. Afterwards, the t-shirt wearer was asked, "How many people in that room do you think noticed your shirt?" On average, they guessed about half, 50% of the room staring at Barry Manilow's face on their chest. When the researchers actually asked the other students, only about 25% had noticed. People overestimated the attention by a factor of 2. But here's what makes it really interesting. The experiment wasn't just about embarrassment. When participants wore a t-shirt with someone cool on it, Martin Luther King Jr., Bob Marley, Jerry Seinfeld, they still overestimated how many people noticed. We don't just think people see our failures, we think they see our triumphs too. We think we're the main character and everyone else is watching our movie. They're not. They're watching their own. So why does this happen? Why can't we just accurately guess how much attention we're getting? The answer lies in a mental shortcut called anchoring and adjustment. Here's how it works. When your brain tries to estimate what other people are thinking about you, it doesn't start from scratch. It starts from the only perspective it truly knows, yours. You are intensely aware of your own coffee stain, your bad hair, your awkward comment. That awareness becomes an anchor, a starting point. And then your brain is supposed to adjust away from that anchor to account for the fact that other people have their own concerns and aren't focused on you. But the adjustment is never enough. Your brain does try to correct. It just consistently undershoots. It's like trying to guess the temperature outside when you're standing next to a furnace. You know it's cooler out there, but the heat is all you can feel. Neuroscientists have actually watched this happen inside the brain. When we try to take someone else's perspective, a region called the medial prefrontal cortex activates. It's the area involved in thinking about both yourself and other people. But imaging studies show that self-referential processing comes first, and the adjustment to another person's viewpoint comes second, and weaker. The brain literally processes me before them. It's not selfishness, it's architecture. The spotlight effect has a cousin that's even more unsettling, the illusion of transparency. This is the feeling that other people can see your internal states, your nervousness, your guilt, your secret discomfort. You're giving a presentation, your heart is pounding, and you're convinced the entire audience can tell you're about to fall apart. They can't. In study after study, speakers dramatically overestimate how visible their anxiety is. Liars think their deception is written all over their face. People tasting something disgusting think their revulsion is obvious to everyone watching. It almost never is. You are far more opaque to the world than you feel. This matters because the illusion of transparency doesn't just make you uncomfortable, it changes your behavior. People who believe their nervousness is visible become more nervous, which they then believe is even more visible. It's a feedback loop that can, over time, contribute to genuine social anxiety. The spotlight effect and the illusion of transparency are part of the machinery that makes social anxiety so hard to escape. You're not just afraid of being judged, You're convinced everyone can already see exactly how afraid you are. Here's where it gets modern. For most of human history, the spotlight effect played out in rooms, at dinner tables, in village squares. You worried about the people physically around you. But then we invented social media, and the imaginary spotlight became something that never turns off. When you post a photo and it gets fewer likes than you expected, your brain interprets that as a social signal. People noticed and weren't impressed. When you post something and then delete it, part of you is convinced that everyone saw it in the brief window it was up. Research from 2024 shows that receiving more online attention, likes, views, shares, actually intensifies the spotlight effect in offline situations too. The digital feedback loop trains your brain to expect observation everywhere. Content creators overestimate how many of their followers notice any individual post. People in general overestimate how memorable their social media activity is to others. We've essentially built platforms that amplify the exact cognitive bias that makes social interaction feel exhausting. The remarkable thing about the spotlight effect is that knowing about it actually helps. In experiments where researchers simply told participants about the bias before a public speaking task, those participants reported significantly less anxiety. Awareness alone is a partial antidote. But the deeper fix requires something harder. It requires accepting a truth that is both humbling and liberating. You are not the center of anyone else's attention. Not because you're unimportant, but because everyone else is locked inside their own head, running their own spotlight, worrying about their own stain, their own awkward comment, their own bad hair day. There's a study sometimes called the bad hair day experiment. Researchers tracked students over a semester, asking both the students and their classmates to rate how they looked each day. The students were intensely aware of their own good and bad days. Their classmates barely noticed any variation at all. Your worst day and your best day look roughly the same to the people around you. That is either deeply depressing or incredibly freeing, depending on how you look at it. So the next time you walk into a room 5 minutes late, remember this: the spotlight is not real. It never was. It's a trick your brain plays because it cannot escape its own perspective. Because processing me will always come before processing them. You are the star of your own movie, but everyone else is watching a different film entirely. And honestly, that's the most freeing thing psychology has ever proven. The audience you've been performing for your whole life is mostly empty. The only person who has been watching that closely, that carefully, that relentlessly is you.